Well, good morning, guys. My name is Courtney Bolden. I'm pre-nerd here at UGA. I'm also in the College of Agriculture, AgCom. So that's a little bit about me. This summer I worked at the North Carolina Eastern 4-H Center, and so that was under NC State Extension. So I worked with a bunch of NC State affiliates and all that good stuff. I worked at the Eastern 4-H Center, which was in Columbia, North Carolina. Is a really tiny town, but it's about 45 minutes outside of the Outer Banks. We were on the Albemarle Sound, so that's a lovely picture of the sound. So the objectives of my internship, I was the waterfront instructor for the camp. So I was pretty much EE for the center. I was called program staff, is what they call it up there. I was responsible for all kayaking, canoeing, sailing, waterfront ecology, marine science ecology we had a little bit of, as well as regular camp activities. It was a residence camp, so we had kids 24 hours a day. I lived in a cabin with kids 24 hours a day. It was great. We had so much fun. So I was responsible also for overseeing campers in the cabin as well as at the waterfront. In each of these areas, I was responsible for developing new curriculum. So we used a little bit of the Project Wild, Project Wet, but for the most part, I was responsible for creating the curriculum, such as like games and anything. I taught and so we made up a couple of games to go along with that, like such as, deciding what sex it was and all that good stuff. I was also responsible for overseeing the other staff. So we had cabin counselors that would come to the waterfront, and when they were at the waterfront, they were my responsibility. So I had to make sure they had on life jackets and shoes, all of that great stuff. I was also responsible for lifeguarding at the waterfront and at the pool. So anytime that anybody was in the water, essentially, I had to be there, which was a lot of fun for me. I'm also trained here at UGA to run rock wall and challenge course. So I assisted at the rock wall and the challenge course, the high ropes, as I was needed throughout the summer. So a basic day, I would get up early, go to breakfast, leave breakfast pretty early, and prepare all the boats. So any kayaks we needed for the day, make sure there were no holes, everything was all good there. I would also check our rescue boat and make sure that everything was packed in it. So we did have a little 15-foot boat that I had to make sure we had a first aid kit, tow ropes, ring buoys, everything like that. I had to check for gas in that as well and make sure it was actually running that day. That's checking any tow ropes to make sure nothing was herniated. And then after everything was checked and the children came to the class, I would instruct about 2 to 4 waterfront classes. So depending on the day or the week, it may be 2 canoeing classes and 2 kayaking classes, or we have a very specific sailing camp where all they do is sail. And so I was responsible for teaching sailing and running the rescue boat for that. And so I was on the water all day for sailing in that class. Other times, if we needed someone to teach crabbing, or if we needed a waterfront ecology section, I would also teach those classes. Like I said, I would drive out and anchor the rescue boat, all that good stuff. Also, outside of the waterfront, I would, on a daily basis, lead group games, lead activities, sing songs with the campers, kind of fill time if, we needed something done and somebody had to go run do something, so I had to fill in. So that was a good opportunity for me to learn a lot about teachable moments and how to take a second and make it something useful for our campers. And then at night, I was responsible for overseeing the campers in the cabins, which was a lot of fun. Some contributions I made, I developed new lessons and games for those classes that hopefully the camp will continue to use through the years. Made a book of everything and made sure that I included all the information so whoever took over the position after me could utilize it as best as possible. I introduced a couple of new camp songs from Georgia. I worked for Georgia 4-H at Rock Eagle 4-H Center last year. And so I brought a couple of our traditions and songs over. I also drove the rescue boat, which is what this picture is, for the sound. And we were on a sailing trip that day, and I was following behind the pontoon boat, which was towing all the sailing boats back to camp. So UGA definitely did play a huge role in everything that I did. In particular, Georgia 4-H, which is a section of UGA Extension, did a lot to help me. I was in forestry judging, so I was able to use a lot of those skills. We did a little compassing and pacing with the campers too, which was something fun to do. We did a shotgun program in Project Safe, and we did a duck hunting camp, and so I was able to use a lot of those skills there as well. My experience with environmental education, also through Georgia 4-H, also helped me a lot because I was able to use a lot of this games and activities and lessons that I had used here up there. And so it was an interesting opportunity to see what North Carolina 4-H does versus what Georgia 4-H does, which they're very different, but also very unique in their own ways. And I really enjoyed that as well. And so my acknowledgments, Chase Luker III, he was my pretty much my boss throughout the summer. He was a great asset and so useful to us. He would always make sure everything was done. Dave Herpy was the NC State camping specialist. He did a lot to help us with lifeguard training and making sure that all of our guards were specifically trained and ready to be at the waterfront with me. Georgia 4-H, Charlie Wurst, he's our camping specialist here in Georgia, and he actually helped me find this internship and told me all about it. And so I'm very thankful for that as well. So does anyone have any questions?